East Hampton Village ZBA, we are live.
Good morning and welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting Friday, May 12th, 2023. We have the minutes from April 14th, 2023. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Today we have 4 determinations, and the entire files are available at Village Hall. And I'm going to let.
All right. In the application of Gianfranco and Servidiatis, 16 Gould Street, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-1-1-12, to construct a new single-family residence, a detached garage, a swimming pool, and accessory improvements is denied. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All right, Pam, would you poll the board, please?
Mr. O'Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Rose?
Yes.
Mr. Barris?
Yes.
Okay, second determination of the day in the application of the East Hampton Historical Society, 8 James Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-8-5-7, to construct an accessory storage barn is granted with conditions. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Pam, can you poll the board, please?
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Rose?
Yes.
Ms. Fitzsimons? Yes.
All right, in the application of Joseph R. and Amy M. Perella, 43 Turbell Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-13-10-5, to construct a driveway gate is granted. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Pam, please poll the board.
Mr. McGurk?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Rose?
Yes.
Ms. Fitzsimons? Yes.
And the last determination of the day in the application of Orrin Properties Number 2 LLC, 46 Further Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-9-6-10.5, to legalize an AC condenser unit is granted. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Pam?
Mr. McGurk?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell?
Yes.
Mr. Rose?
Yes.
Ms. Fitzsimons? Yes.
We did receive plans from the applicant from 9 Sag Harbor Road from the last meeting. We're going to have Billy review them.
Okay.
Is that all right with the board?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
We just got them.
And we have 2 adjournments today. We have 50 East Hollow LLC, and we have the Jewish Center of the Hamptons. And we have continued hearing for Apicog 72 LLC. Morning. This is kind of strange, right?
John Turbin for the applicant. We did appear before you last month and explained the project, so we'll go through the entire explanation again. Just refresh your memory quickly. It's an existing 4-story home. The current owner is in the process of rebuilding it historically accurate. There was a dormer on the front of the house 100 years ago. At one point, there was a fire in the house. When the house was rebuilt, the dormer wasn't put back, and we're asking, as part of our historical renovation, to have a variance to put the dormer back on the building. It's no higher than the existing ridgeline, and the story already exists. It's already habitable space. It's just a matter of creating a little more headroom within the existing 4th floor.
Would anybody else like to speak on this? Any board members like to speak on this?
I just had one question. I drove past it the other day, and the roof on the right-hand side, looking from the street, has a bunch of, like, the roof was taken off. Like, what's going on there?
Can I speak?
You can. You have to come up here.
We got to swear you in.
You can tell me. You might be able to count me out. You got to be sworn in.
Raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
David Menelaus, 69 Gold Street, East Hampton.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
There is a steel cold floor in the plans, so to get the steel into the house, they cut the roof and they lowered the steel into the house.
Great.
Okay.
That was my only question. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
I did want to say that one of the reasons we adjourned last time was because all the neighbors came. I can't say they're appeased because I didn't speak to each of the neighbors. The homeowner did. She made an effort to talk to all the homeowners, the surrounding neighbors. They're not here, which I think is a good sign. I wasn't sure if they would come or not, but we did speak to them and try to address their concerns.
Thank you, Jonathan. A motion to close the hearing?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And new hearings of the day. Pam?
David and Jennifer Hannon, subcommittee tax map number 301-919.4 for an area variance for chapter 278 zoning to allow coverage to exceed the maximum allowable limit. A 511 square foot variance is requested from section 278-3A9 to permit 8,533 square feet of coverage where the legally pre-existing coverage 8,333 square feet and zoning limits coverage on this property to 8,022 square feet. The subject property is 40,111 square feet in size, is situated as 11 Pondview Lane, and is located in Residence District R80. This project is classified as a type 2 action in accordance with the
Morning, Trevor.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Trevor Darrell, Fleming and Darrell PLLC for the applicant. The applicant appears before you, as was just stated by Ms. Bennett, seeking relief from the coverage calculations of the code. As was referenced in Mr. Hajak's memo, the premises was granted a certificate of occupancy in 2019 and then again in 2022. And as part of the final interior renovation, the architect and the applicant owner thought that adding a front porch, a covered front porch, really would make a huge difference in the overall aesthetics look of the front of the house. And that would meet with the character of the neighborhood to have that front porch rather than just steps to the front door. The property is currently CO'd with 8,373 square feet of coverage, but as Ms. Bennett just read, the maximum allowed under the code currently is 8,022 square feet. So the property is 351 square feet over covered at the existing time. The proposed relief is for 511 square feet in total. So unfortunately, the way that our code works is that we have to set back to zero as if the pre-existing coverage doesn't exist. So the applicant is actually seeking 160 square feet of new coverage for that porch, if that makes sense. So we're going from the 8,022 to the proposed 8,000 and I don't know that number with me, but the extra 511, which is like I said, 160 square feet over what's existing at the current time. The house across the street that's newly under construction also has a front porch, as do many of the houses on the street. Any of the members who went by the property, there's also a large hedge out in front of the property, so it really sort of limits any impact that the porch may have on the overall view from the street.
Thank you. Any board members have any questions on this? Anybody in the audience like to speak?
I just have a comment that, what was done there was extensive, and they could have taken that into account and taken some of the coverage off of the back, one of the patios to make up the.
You better put your stuff. I did have that conversation, and it was all sort of pre-built when this came about to the front of the house. And we did speak to the village as to sort of picking out the cobblestone that's in the area between the house and the garage. And we were told basically that because it's part of the driveway, if we removed it, it doesn't change our coverage. So really then you're looking at the
Patios in the back.
patios in the back, which are all set.
Yeah. Okay. That's my comment.
Thank you, Phil. A motion to close the hearing? Second? All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
application of CG85 LLC, subcounty tax map number 301, except for 14.2 for a wetlands permit and variances in accordance with chapter 278 zoning. For the wetlands.
Excuse me, do you mind setting up that that easel on the other side of the podium so that we on the TV could get a shot of it? We'd appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Tennis court, construct a swimming pool, pool house, sanitary system, and drainage structures, roof fragments. freshwater wetland permit in accordance with section 163.3 is requested to make alterations to an existing residence and construct an attached garage, construct a swimming pool, decking, covered patio, schoolhouse, and other accessory improvements, and to cut phragmites using handheld tools and to revegetate with native vegetation. Section 278.388 requires a 150-foot setback from wetlands. For the construction of buildings and structures, the following improvements require variances from this division. A 52.1-foot variance to install a septic system 147.9 feet from wetlands, and a 101.8-foot variance to construct a swimming pool 48.2 feet from wetlands, a 103-foot variance to construct decks, with the nearest being located 47 feet from wetlands, an 88.5-foot and 5.9-foot variance to construct two outdoor kitchens located 61.5 feet and 144.1 feet from wetlands, and a 86.9-foot variance to renovate and make alterations to an existing residence located 63.1 feet from wetlands, a 118.3-foot and 49-foot variance to construct two sets of steps to a tennis court located 31.7 feet and 101 feet from wetlands, and 40-foot and 6-foot variance to construct gravel and stone driveways 102 feet and 144 feet from wetlands, a 55.8-foot variance to construct a pool house with overhang and pool equipment 104.2 feet from wetlands, and a 40-foot variance to construct stone walkways, the nearest of which is located 110 feet from wetlands. A 1.2-foot variance is requested from section 278.3A4A to renovate and make alterations to a residence located 69.8 feet from a front yard lot line where the required front yard setback is 70 feet. A 24.1-foot variance is requested from section 278.3A5A to construct a pool house with roof overhang and pool equipment 49.9 feet from the front yard lot line where the required front yard setback is 75 feet. The subject property is 83,112 square feet in size and is located at 104 Georgia Close Road with frontage on Georgia Pond. The property is located in Residence District R160, and this project is classified as type 2 action in accordance with SECRA.
Good morning, Mr. Acker.
Good morning. Good morning. My presentation is not going to be as long as the notice. These boards are just copies of what you already have. I have David Martin, the architect, and Jim Walker from Inner Science, so they can refer to these boards. The basic overview of this, this property is on Jones Cove. It's to the north of where I live, actually. Bob Niederlander built this house about the same time I did, in the 70s, late 70s. And over the last 10 years or so, it's come under a tremendous amount of unimprovement and maintenance. The neighbors on Jones Cove have been working to remove phragmites to keep the health of that pond and Georgia Cove as healthy as possible, working with Friends of Georgia Pond. And this renovation and upgrading, I think it's significantly going to add to the health of Jones Cove and Georgia Pond. As you know, this house is principally within wetlands jurisdiction. We have Billy's memo, and of course we're going to adhere to whatever his recommendations are. We've already made certain improvements to the plans to eliminate some of the variances. The house is obviously pre-existing non-conforming. There are going to be significant enhancements. Jim Walker's here to discuss the wetlands coverage in the clearance area. We've decreased wetlands coverage, upgrading the sanitary to a new sanitary. As you know from the consultant's report, the pool conditions in the pool and sanitary are really serious impact on the wetlands of the cove. The GFA is conforming. The coverage is below permitted. The height is conforming. The setbacks have been pushed back for the pool and the pool house. There's no changes to the main house except for a bump out at 381 square feet on the second floor to accommodate an expansion of the bedroom up there. The pool is now being made more conforming, as we've outlined. The tennis court is reduced coverage, and the pool house is wetland setback. There's no more clearing. It's actually the decrease in coverage. There's no detriment to neighbor properties. Personally sent out to all the neighbors who are on the wetlands list a note asking them to call me if they have any questions, because these are all my neighbors. We have one letter from one neighbor, I believe is in the file. Okay. There's obvious benefits to the cove. I don't believe there's a reasonable alternative. I think the maximum feasibility setbacks are there for the benefits that are sought. And it's the same footprint for the main house, pool house, the tennis court, and of course the mitigation, sanitary, and revegetation. I have the architect and Jim Walker here to answer any questions you may have.
Board members? No one?
I had a couple questions.
Yeah, please.
We received plans initially, and then we received, I guess, 3 additional sets of plans. The last
I'll
one.
explain that away.
Yeah.
What happened is, Jim, the DEC has requested that we reduce coverage, so we didn't need a DEC variance. So we reduced the footprint of the tennis court. Also, the plans were mislabeled, identifying kitchens to be installed, which obviously are not permitted. These are barbecues. So I corrected those because I believe when and if a determination is made, you need to incorporate a proper set of plans. So with the cooperation of Pam, we substituted some of those. But essentially, those were the changes. We identified the barbecues and we reduced the size of the tennis court.
So did that eliminate any of the variances requested?
Did that eliminate? Well, it reduced them. It reduced them, yes, because we reduced coverage.
Okay.
It doesn't change the notice, but it changes the, ultimately what's going to be built is going to be less because we reduced the size of the court.
And Billy did put in his memo that you will revegetate in 6 months.
Absolutely. Jim Grimes is here. If you have any questions,
Would you guys like to hear anything from Jim?
Yeah, I'm good.
You good?
Just a discussion about the treatment and landscaping treatment, what's going to be done and what the irrigation, the compliance with the regulations governs the pond. Obviously, the concern is about maintaining, improving, and being rigorous about adhering to the restrictions regarding what happens in a sensitive.
It's interesting, Joe, what's happened here. There's, on both sides, we've reduced Phragmites on the pond. There's still a big chunk of Phragmites, but the cove is closing up. And this is going to make a big difference. So it flushes out at the rear to the north. And Bob Niederlander he hasn't been here. He lives in Florida. He's retired. He hasn't been maintaining this house. And, this is going to be a substantial improvement for what we have. Thank you.
If you can just speak, I guess, to the irrigation, to the landscape treatment, and anything relating to potential.
Grimes, Sims Lane Design, Sunwood Line A.
Right here. Restate your name and address. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. With respect to the landscape plan, the landscape plan was developed out of the observance of a violation. The applicant had done what previously they had permits to do here. Those permits had lapsed several years ago. It was observed that the Phragmites, as well as some of the herbaceous vegetation along the shoreline, had been cut back illegally. That's what prompted the village building inspector to go over and cite the property. In accordance with Billy, Pajak, and Tom, a plan was developed for the mitigation and re-restoration of the shoreline, because several years ago, and I wasn't part of that operation, Jim Walker was, there was an extensive revegetation done when Mr. Niederlander owned the property years ago. And as Mr. Ackerman described, over several years, there was absolutely no care given to this wetland. As such, the Phragmites started to make its way back into the property, interspersed with some of the native vegetation there. That was cut back. What we're proposing here is a more robust buffer than what was there originally. We've incorporated some shrubby components to this to better define that wetland buffer. We've added significantly more vegetation to that area. As this board's looking at it, I suppose the good news here is none of the existing trees were taken out as part of any of these illegal operations, so they're still there. The major woody component of this buffer is still very much in place and is healthy. And what was done as part of InterScience involvement here are those trees were actually located and described on their survey. So from a monitoring standpoint, it's very easy for the village in their capacity as on environmental oversight, the East Hampton Town trustees in their capacity to kind of at a glance monitor sort of the compliance issues here in the future.
Will all the code restrictions involving irrigation and the like be adhered
The
to?
only thing we probably would ask here is for temporary irrigation above ground for no more than 2 growing seasons, at which point those native plants should be well established and that supplemental watering would no longer be required. And I don't want to tell you guys your business, but I would make that a condition of the permit.
I think you should. We've done
Billy's put that.
we've done that before too. So
Yeah, Billy's put that in the
Okay.
memo down.
thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Ackerman? Anybody in the audience like to speak?
Well, I had one more question,
Go
Mr. Ackerman. Sorry, just to go back to the tennis court. When I went over to the property, I noticed that the stairs in the tennis court on the southern border were inside the court.
Well, as the architect, I'm not familiar with that. This is David Martin, you have to be sworn.
Raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is David Martins, Principal Architect for Architects Med. My address is 18 Midtown Road, Car Place, New York.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Tennis court stairs. As of right now, there is a set of stairs that goes 2 different directions along the tennis court itself. And it's currently in the playing surface area, so we're trying to remove that to give some more room. And because we added now this new 2-foot vegetative buffer around the interior of the tennis court, the playing area is getting smaller. So instead of moving that into there, we'd rather have it facing out of the property and also give it a more expansive view into the actual beautiful cove that is there existing already.
Okay.
Yeah, and the stairs in the back, it's actually existing. We're just trying to we're going to rebuild it because it's current. You were there. I'm pretty sure you saw that it's dilapidated. It's falling apart.
Right. And why do you need stairs to the south?
For access and for us to access the stairs in the back, you actually have to go to access the stair in the back. You actually have to go outside of your property through a pool fence to go behind it. This actually keeps the playing area all within the backyard without having to actually access another threshold into the front of your property. So that is just secondary access into it versus being in the back near a foul line. It's a more direct approach, so it doesn't interrupt the play if someone's there playing.
Okay. Did you ever consider putting it on the east side of the court so you wouldn't need an additional variance?
We're here.
Yeah.
We could. It's just the grade's much more drastic, so we actually have to go further into the tennis court to be able to access that.
Okay.
And because of the coverage issues too, we like Lenny was saying, the existing property right now is currently over coverage, so we're drastically reducing it to well below the maximum requirements. And by doing that, it was going to add to it. So we try to be more mindful with it and try to relocate it in an area where we can reduce the size of it.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Good question.
Any other board members? Thank you, Abigail. Motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you very much.
All in favor?
It's good to be back.
Nice to see you.
You know, this room is really tough for me to hear though, because there's no microphones. Are we gonna be doing this for a while, Pam, in here?
No,
We don't know.
We're gonna have
A little while.
building.
A while.
It's gonna be a little bit longer than I thought.
So we're on to our third hearing of the day, and I think it's Mr. Ackerman again.
Application of Guildhall of East Hampton, Inc., Suffolk County Tax Map Number 31853.
Thank you, guys.
With special permit variances in accordance with chapter 78 zoning and alterations to an existing use and construct 2 additions. The special permit is requested 278-7D to make alterations to the building and construct 2 additions in connection to the special permit use and of the project. A variance is requested from section 278-7C2 to permit the alteration and construction of 2 additions to the building containing a non-conforming theater use located in a residential district. The 10-foot variance is requested from section 283A to construct an approximately 55 square foot addition 40 feet from the front yard where the required setback is 50 feet. The property is 45,848 square feet in size and is located at 158 Main Street. The property is located in Business District R80 and the Main Street Historic District. This project requires approval of the design review board and is classified as a type 2 action or it's
Good morning, Mr. Ackerman.
Morning. This is a housekeeping event in the course of bringing Guildhall to completion. Design of the curtain.
And I am recusing myself. Sorry, guys.
Yes, you get me.
It's okay. They were designing the curtain, discovered that they were going to need a few more feet on either side in order to open the curtain for the entire stage. They, I guess redesigning it. Graham will explain they're redesigning the whole stage at Guildhall. The reason for the number of variances, Guildhall is a pre-existing non-conforming. It's residentially zoned, right? It's all residential zoned. And because of that, they need a special permit, and they need area variances because of the side yard. So if you'd like, Graham can just explain how this all came about. So why don't you tell them the short version is Graham Rice. He's an associate. He's one of Peter Pennoyer Architects.
raise your right hand, state your name and address for the record.
Graham Rice, 1296 Pacific Street, Brooklyn, New York.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yeah. So these are 2 quite small kind of, we call them dog houses. I guess they're kind of bump outs from the stage house on either side of the main proscenium. So what they allow Guildhall to do is the curtain to fully extend, which increases the view to the stage by about 20%, which is a really significant improvement for performances. And then not just the curtain, but also the addition of line sets where you drop scrims. Certain elements of the theatrical set from above can be put more forward towards the audience. And in those spaces, there's also lighting and motor, which operates all of those line sets. So in terms of how it would appear is you're just moving the ceiling up about 8 feet in this small area. It's not an additional square footage in terms of occupiable space for people to move around, just a modification of the envelope.
Can you just identify on the plans where,
Sure. It's
from the outside, how it will look?
Sure. I actually have a. So they're quite difficult to see from the outside, as you can probably tell. They would match the white brick, and they're 8 feet but they're off the first floor roof. So one of the requirements we held the technical designers to was to keep them below the existing eave of the stage house, and they're tucked on the back side of the building, and there's the octagons rising up in front of them, so they're quite obscured, difficult to see.
Just bring it to the other side. Just put it on this easel.
Yeah, sure.
They're just pointing directly from Dunmere, where.
Yeah, if you're on Dunmere Lane, and there's the Nightingale's Garden out here, this is it. That's what's visible.
I did go over that, John. I went up on the roof. Yeah, so.
Can you see it?
You can kind of see it, but
If you're looking for it, right.
right, if you're looking for it, but
Right.
I'm assuming it's going to be painted the same color as the building.
Right.
It'll be brick.
So it'll be, at first, when I first saw the plans, I was like, oh God, it's in front of the window and they're going to have to redo it. And then I went up on the roof. So, yeah. About 4 feet of it sticks up above the parapet wall.
Right.
The importance of this application was it came as a complete surprise, and they're trying to open for the summer, partially open for the summer. They're not going to have the entire facility completed, but they want to open the downstairs, and they need to have the stage working, and that's why we're trying to get this expedited so that they can move forward and do the work. It's just the way when I came here for with the ZBA application initially, they had, I guess, sourced out this design, and then when the design people, the engineering people came back, they said, "Oh, you haven't made the opening wide enough." I think in layman's terms, that's what they meant. Joe, you have any other? Thank you. Thank you.
There we go.
I just have a question. So, the height, are you making a sacrifice?
Can you speak up for him?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
The height, did you make a sacrifice to not bring it all the way up?
Well,
That's what I was confused about when I was.
There's multiple designers on the project. There's a theatrical designer, and we do the building. So there's always some tension between us in that they want to do everything to make the theater work, and we want to make the most beautiful building. So initially they asked for some more height, and we're happy to say, hold it to the eave. We don't want to make a visual impact, and that works for them. It brings them to.
Okay, that's my only question.
It's only about yay wide too, right?
Yeah, it's in such a crevice of the building that, if you measured it, it would be 10 feet long, but in terms of what you can actually stand in and see, yay wide is a good description.
I can even tell from looking at the 2 photographs that you're trying to figure out where exactly it was.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody from the public? Public, no? Okay.
Great, thank you very much.
Someone. Second?
Second.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
You want to just close on? You want to take it back over? Thank you very much.
No, I'm back.
So I don't think there's anybody left to speak, so motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all.
Thank you.
For the day, for the weekend. Might still be on.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's just walk back. I noticed it's so long. You
Go. I was talking to the secretary.
We have our they closed the hearing and the text for
Yeah, that was.
Excuse me, are we adjourned? Excuse me, are we adjourned?
There were a whole, my mom found